What is up, conscious monkeys? We're back with another episode of Catch Up with Clayton. I'm Clayton, and welcome. Today is February 2nd, and wow, it's February 2nd. I feel like the first half of January took years, and then the last week all happened in the matter of seconds. Does anyone else feel that way? I don't know. Maybe I'm alone on that one, but let me know what you think. Um, whew, what a week. So this week, I read Give and Take by Adam Grant. We'll get into that. I'll tell you guys about how some manifestations are coming real and an experience and a life lesson I kind of learned from a LAN night playing Xbox with some friends. So we'll get into all that stuff. Let's start off in the order I wrote this down. The book Give and Take by Adam Grant. I'm 90-ish, 95% of the way done with it, but I do think there are probably some core concepts that are going to come into play in this last 5% that I need to flush out. But I did want to give you guys a nice little overview of what I've understood so far. Now, the core concept is, and I'll propose this to you guys so you're kind of in the same state of mind as myself. I don't know if you guys can hear that water in the background. Hopefully not. I'll get a little bit closer. But what the core concept is of it is I'll propose the question, right? So if we break down the world into three types of people: givers, takers, and matchers. The point being, you're a giver, you always give. There's takers who always take, and there's matchers who evenly distribute their stuff. You might see this as people's oh, once you do something for me, I need to do something for you. They're kind of always matching that play out. So, the question that gets proposed is if we break the world down into those three people, who do you propose is at the bottom? Majority of people, and just based off of the way the book said, is majority of people say that givers are at the bottom. And you're correct. Givers are at the bottom. This is where the phrase nice guys finish last comes in. And it's okay, that pretty much plays out. Sure, nice guys finish last. So the question then becomes is who's at the top? Well, based on statistics, and maybe what you already answered yourself, is takers and matchers find themselves at the top. This is actually false. Takers and matchers actually find themselves in the middle. Maybe sometimes you'll see takers rise to the top, but then they'll have this this whiplash effect where they'll actually get parachuted down to the bottom because people figure out that they're takers. So without diving too deep into it, takers and matchers are actually at the middle. So the question becomes is who's at the top? The crazy answer is that givers are also at the top. And the whole book, this blew my mind. From the very first chapter, I was like, okay, so what the hell's the answer? My whole mind went to what separates a giver being at the top versus a giver being at the bottom. So now the book takes you on a little bit of a journey, giving you examples of, givers, giving you examples of takers, giving you example of matchers. Me personally, where I'm at in my, worldview, and don't get me wrong, I think that the book goes through stuff that's super valuable for people. I think you should kind of, give it its due diligence. I think there might be people that are in different parts in their journey where they've kind of seen that, and I've thought oh shit, that makes sense. They should be at the top, speaking, but what separates them? I apologize if I'm going down a long kind of thing. But the key aspect of what the book gets into is that they kind of broke down givers into people who just give to give, and then strategical givers. And the idea of being a strategical giver is, and the people who give to give is how you're doing your bit of giving. right? Like, are you just giving to give because it's what you should do? Like, are you giving to everybody? Are you giving to the takers and the matchers just with all your energy? Because those are the people who usually find themselves at the bottom, are the people who are just giving to takers and just giving to matchers. That's why you find, and a little bit of this is my interpretation of it, but I think a lot of these key components are holding true. And again, this is no justice for the book, but go listen to it, read it yourself. The reason that takers find themselves in the middle is because they take from those givers who are just giving and giving and giving. The key is to be a strategical giver is to pay attention. How much are you giving to takers? How much are you giving to other givers? How much are you giving to matchers? And don't get me wrong, I think it's fine to give to all these groups. And I think over time, you realize that you give to all these groups. I think what also happens kind of in the minds of people is like they become takers because they were givers at a young age, and maybe you get wronged by somebody and somebody just takes, and it kind of corrupts you. You're like, well, fuck this. Like, everybody just takes, so I'm just going to become a taker. I'm not going to give anymore. Like, if no one else is doing it, why should I? And fair, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that's a fair outlook. Like, it's a self-protection, let's say mindset. Like, I'm going to just take. Like, why? You're at least going to end up in the middle, right? They at least do a little bit better than the people who just give for just giving's sake. But you're not going to be, and this is what I would argue, this is becoming my personal opinion, is you're just going to be now just doing things kind of out of spite. Like, you don't want to get hurt, so you're just going to not expose yourself or be vulnerable to the world. Which, don't get me wrong, like, that's far safer than just going around and just giving to everybody and being vulnerable with everybody. And where was I going on that? I feel like I went down a little bit of a tangent there. Like, fair, but the key of this, in my opinion, is learning how to be that strategical giver. Learn to be able to identify when you're giving to people who are just takers. And you might not figure this out in the first, day or two of knowing somebody. Maybe it takes you a week or two, but you'll realize we have these mental accountants, and I'll have to figure out what book that is, but we're in a mental accountant where you know who you're giving to, if they're a taker or a matcher or a giver. And, excuse me. Oh, getting those morning burps, I guess. Unedited, right? Ooh. So you got to figure out who the givers are in this world and just give to them. You know that they're going to be repaying you with their giving. And yeah, don't get me wrong. You might waste your energy on giving to a taker. You might end up being vulnerable to somebody who's judgmental. The key is to recognize that. And this is, I think, a universal truth, is that the key is to recognize that and just give to the people who are giving. Like, you'll find them in your life. You know they exist because you're one of them. You know that there are givers in the world because you are a giver. The point is, though, is to be able to understand who the takers are and avoid giving more than you can. Like, appreciate them. Be like, all right, I know you exist in the world. Here's another one. I can tell you're just taking. I'm going to stop giving. So that's kind of my interpretation of it. I think that this book, again, go read it for yourself if you want to dive into it deeper. That obviously just highlighted a very quick overview of a pretty thick book. But this book, honestly, if you've ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People, I feel like these probably go together like cheese and wine. Like, these two books complement each other so well. I would say read Give and Take after How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's probably the way to look at it. But again, I guess that's just how I read it. So maybe I'm projecting my personal experience onto you guys. But if one of those resonates more with you, I said start with that one. But they go really well together. Like, they're like cheese and wine. What is another good example? Magnets, north and south. They go well together. So that's if you're interested in more information like that, I'd say read those too. Manifestation's coming real. There are some private ones. I guess, wow, what a great transition. Let's transition to the next part. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Manifestations are coming real. Um, I some of them are kind of private, like manifestations. Like I've been using some of Neville Goddard stuff where you visualize it before bed, and I've been doing some of Joe Dispenza's stuff with meditations and activating that delta state. But I'm in love with life right now. Like it's going dope. That's not to say everything's perfect by no stretch of the imagination. I still have my little mental relapses, which we'll get to in a second. Uh, but things are going well. Like things are growing. The podcast is growing. You can take a look at the Instagram. Those numbers are going up. Definitely click follow. That's a shameless plug. My podcast numbers are going up. My downloads have doubled, almost tripled in the last month, which I think is absolutely insane. And shout out to all you new conscious monkeys. So appreciative that you have found this and that you're listening to the message that I have to give. Um, you're called to this for a reason. So, stick around and thanks for being here. Maybe there's a way, if anyone is skeptical of manifestation, here's what I'll put out to you. If you're skeptical of manifesting or manifestations, shoot me like a message on one of my platforms or email me and be like, hey, I'm skeptical of manifestations. Like, I want you to prove this to me and I want to know how I could prove it to you because I'm always interested in how people still think about that. Moving along. Well, you can move on to this. This was a dope kind of realization I had, and this really harnesses the power of being present. This weekend, I went over to a buddy's house, and they kind of set up like a LAN environment. And if you don't know, it's basically just like a bunch of guys getting together playing Xbox. Everyone has their own monitor. Everyone has their own Xbox, and you're just a bunch of dudes just hanging out, BSing, and playing a video game together. We played Apex Legends, I believe it's called. It's basically like a mix of Fortnite and Halo. And, it was so much fun. We had like 6 guys just chilling, playing. And the crazy thing is that it reminded me of my youth. And when I was a kid, we would do this all the time. Like every other weekend, you're a kid, we're playing video games, we're all over at someone's house, we have a sleepover, maybe we pull an all-nighter, stuff like that. And I caught myself. I was like, damn, I wish I was in the good old days of Halo. I wish I was in the Halo days. Like, I remember how much fun those were. I remember like what a great time it was, blah, 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 blah. And I caught myself. I was like, dude, you're pulling yourself out of the present moment to go to the past for Halo. It's like, dude, Halo had its time in my life. I know it's still big, and shout out Halo if you're any of my old teammates listening. Shout out Halo team. Go Sioux Crew. Regardless, I lost my train of thought. Regardless, my point is that I found myself taking myself out of the present moment for this past moment. And the craziest part about it is I was experiencing it that in the present, like I was in the present moment, right? I was in a LAN with my buddies, bullshitting, playing playing Apex, which was similar to Halo, right? It's modern day Halo, let's say, playing this game, but then finding myself wishing I was younger doing the same thing. Like in my mind, what a crazy rationale of like, wow, I wish I was just younger me doing this. It's like, no, now you're older you doing this. You can appreciate this more. Like you're literally doing what you wished. Oh, but it's not Halo. It's like, dude, so what? Like it's the same core concept. You're bonding with your friends, you're playing a video game, and you're, just having fun, loving life doing it. I mean, you've got beer, like arguably better, right? Some people might even argue that it's better that you're now able to drink and do all this fun stuff. You don't have to worry about parents coming down or something. I don't know. Getting out of track here maybe a little. But the core concept is being able to take that future, like having that realization. It was like, here's a situation where I'm literally doing what I wish I was doing in the past, in the present, but making myself I wasn't making myself feel bad, but it was just like this want to be in the past. But it was like, no, you're experiencing it right now. Just appreciate that. I don't know. Take that. Maybe I sound like I'm crazy. I don't know, but I just thought that was like a crazy like catch. It was like, holy shit, like you're wishing you were somewhere else, but you're still literally doing what you wish you were doing in the past, but it's now. I think it just highlights how crazy our minds can be and how out of control they can get if you leave them unchecked. Like that could have easily spiraled and ruined the entire night. Like, oh, I wish I was playing Halo when I was 6 years, 10 years old again. Like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Uh, Hopefully that resonated with somebody. Just one person that resonated with, that'd be dope. But that's the power of becoming present, having that awareness, having all that fun stuff. I also had 3 interviews last week. I've got 2 more this coming up this weekend that I'm going to record. Super excited for the progress of what we're doing here, guys. I'm energized about it. You know, um, yeah. Other than that, leave a review if you're on certain media sites. If you're on Apple, I'd love to hear your thoughts about being a conscious monkey. Oh, merch update! I got the first initial draft of the merchandise. It's going to be pretty cool. But I'm just going to tease you guys with that. I'll leave it at that. It's pretty psychedelic. Looks like a monkey. It reminds me of the monkey from Avatar, Momo. So yeah, it's fun stuff ahead, guys. All right, cool. Nothing else to give you guys. Wow, these catch ups are getting longer. I don't know if I'm getting better at talking or what, but I don't know. I don't have any other information for you guys. Like, share, subscribe on all your socials or whatever the hell you're listening this to. I'm blowing up the Instagram a little bit more, so jump in there. With that being said, I appreciate you guys. If you're listening to this message, I appreciate you. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you are, any of those. It's just thank you. Thank you for listening. You took time. You took 17 minutes out of your day to just listen to me. Hopefully give you some knowledge. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, conscious monkeys. I appreciate you guys. This is fun. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.